Hello everyone, TimeToGrind here, and today I wanted to talk about Rogue Heroes Runes of Tasos, or Tasos, however you pronounce it. But Rogue Heroes is already one of the best co-op roguelites I have ever played, hands down. And before we jump into the review, I do just want to let you guys know that I was given an early review copy of the game in order to make a video for you all. I never let that influence my reviews, I just like staying as transparent as possible. So Rogue Heroes is a dungeon crawling Zelda-like roguelite that you can play with up to 4 people at once. And so how the game works is you create your save, pick your class, and then go into dungeons. There is a story that kind of brings you to the first dungeon and explains the game, and from there you're going through these elaborate dungeons to try to get to the end and gaining a ton of gems for the out-of-game progression. And the dungeons are easily one of the best parts about the game. Each room can be filled with enemies that pose serious threats, and the combat in the game is really great. It feels super smooth and responsive, which is definitely what you want. Sometimes you'll accidentally touch an enemy while trying to hit them, which will hurt you, but the better you get, the less that tends to happen. And there are items you can find in the game like bows and magic wands and grappling hooks and a lot more. And some of them use your mana and some of them have their own separate ammo. If you have a bow and arrow, it's going to use arrows rather than your mana. On top of that, each dungeon is filled with traps like pressure plates that trigger arrow traps or bombs falling from the sky if you press on a pressure plate, and sometimes there can be good traps that will trigger and then give you a bunch of gems or something like that. There are also a ton of secrets you can find, and the one thing that the game does that is really cool is that every room in the dungeon can be cleared, and that just mainly means like killing all the enemies and discovering any secrets that are in the room. So you might have to light all the torches in a room, which will spawn a chest, or press a certain amount of pressure plates all at once in a single room. When you've cleared a room, it'll change color on the map and you'll get a notification which turns every room into an entire objective on its own, as you just want to make sure you're getting all of the awesome loot and find all the hidden secrets instead of just running from place to place in the dungeon. And like I said earlier, the dungeon crawling in the game is so fun, especially if you're playing co-op. And all of my experience with the game has been with me playing with one other friend. The dungeons appear that they can be completed perfectly fine solo, but they're also designed in a way that seems to subtly promote cooperation between players if you're playing co-op. And if one of you dies, you drop your skull, and if your friend brings it carefully to a sacrificial altar, you can get them revived. But that is way easier said than done. Overall, the game is very challenging. I have played for several hours, and I'm not even going to lie, we haven't even scratched the surface of everything the game has, which is definitely a good thing. I can tell there is so much this game has to offer, and you could play this game for, it seems like, hundreds of hours, and the main reason why is the progression. The progression in this game is fantastic. So all throughout the dungeon, you're collecting all of these gems, and these gems are the main currency for all of the out-of-game progression. So you keep respawning in this little town, and you can actually build your town up with these gems. So you'll create a nurse building to gain health upgrades, a blacksmith to get damage upgrades, a gym to increase stamina, a clothing store to unlock new classes you find cloth for, and a ton more of buildings. And there are so many different things you can focus on with the progression. There are like 10 different buildings, all with several simple but deep perk trees that you can use to subtly improve your character. There are also several buildings that are really unique, like a fishing dock or a place to brew potions, or even a farm to grow crops with. The progression system is baked into a simplistic town management idea, which makes the progression feel natural and grounded in the world instead of just random characters giving you random upgrades like kind of tends to happen in a lot of other roguelites. So overall, I don't have a ton more to say about the game, mainly because I'm still exploring it as we speak. You know, it is so awesome because you can play the co-op local multiplayer or online, or even with the Steam Remote Play if you have a good enough internet connection. So the fact that I now have a roguelite game where I can just pop on when friends come over, where we all have our own progression, yet we're all on a team, is so awesome. And I touched on it a tiny bit, but the way the game handles progression with multiple different players is great. So when anyone finds gems in the dungeon, everyone gets the same amount for the most part, but how you spend your gems is however you want. So my friend could use his version of the gems he got to upgrade his damage a ton and go to a thief class to do a ton of damage, while I could go on a mage class and focus on upgrading my magic and maybe a little health and getting wands and stuff. And I have to say that this is one of the best local multiplayer roguelites I think I have ever played, and I'm so happy that I get to just continue playing it constantly because, like I've said so many times in this video already, it is one of the best local multiplayer or just multiplayer roguelites in general I have ever played. So I would highly recommend this game if you have some people to play with, whether it's online or local or, Steam share. But I also think that this game still can be enjoyed a ton as a solo experience. You might be at a slight disadvantage, but I think it is still doable and definitely still worthwhile. But when you guys get your hands on Rogue Heroes or just from watching gameplay, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this review, then consider leaving a like down below and subscribing to see a ton more of roguelite content. And if you want to see some raw co-op gameplay in action, my friend Bora and I made a Let's Play, so you should definitely check that out as well. But if you're going to be grinding out some games of Rogue Heroes, I wish you all luck and see you all next time.